What's up, guys? This is Astranox. We have the stats and the skills of Kawerik, so I'll give my early thoughts about him and talk about his strengths, his weaknesses in PvE and PvP. I'll go over some, combos, heroes that you could use him with. So if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you still haven't. This stuff is coming out of the official Korean Epic 7 YouTube channel, guys. So the link will be in the description if you want to check the official video. They have some of his story. They go through like character design, stuff like that. Really cool video, so you should check it out. Anyways, let's start it off here. That's what he looks like. I mean, he's been in the game files for so long. Now, this is his stats. 119 speed is actually the highest speed for a mage, and he's definitely gonna be useful to open up against Bazaar. Open up first, and then I'll talk about his skills, but his skill too can deal with Bazaar real nice. But not only him, I mean a bunch of other heroes. So he's got 1306 attack, which is very high, and it will allow him to deal quite a lot of damage. So I'll talk about him, of course, in PvE and in PvP. His health, it's low, 4,248, but he's a mage. That's usually how it goes with mages. Low health, high defense of 652, and 23% crit chance. He's got a self-memory imprint concentration, 18% attack at SS, and for the other teammates, not including himself, 10.8% attack. So he's a fire mage. What do you actually need to skill him up and to awaken him? I'll let you guys know right now. He is, his zodiac is Virgo, and you actually need, for skilling him up, you need 33 Molagora, if you want to plus 15, that is. You need Flame of Soul, 36 of those. You need Demon Blood Gems, 6 of those. That's for skill ups. You need a bit over 500,000 gold as well. Now for Awakening, you will need 15 Eternal Forest Dust and 10 Demon Blood Gems, as well as, normal, Rune, Greater, and Epic. 45, 22, and 18 of those. Okay, moving on here. That is his skill number 2. We're gonna be talking about this because it combos with skill number 3. You kind of need the speed buff. If you're not getting it from that skill, you need to obtain it from another hero to enable, to increase your damage with skill number 3. So this thing has a 4-turn cooldown, dimensional corridor. It gives you 2 souls. I really like that soul burn effect of ignore effect resistance for 20 souls. That is huge. He's a mage. He has access to those OP mage artifacts, so that's very good. Draws the enemy into subspace and attacks with a 75% chance each to dispel 1 buff before increasing skill cooldowns by 1 turn each. I mean, 1 turn twice, sorry. And that means it will dispel and then increase skill cooldowns by 1 turn, and then dispel another buff and increase skill cooldown by another turn. So that's very good. It happens twice. So if you're not soul burning, you've got 2 tries basically to go against that 15% innate resist built into the game, or maybe you're going against elemental disadvantage, which you're gonna have a 50% chance of missing. So yeah, if you would like to gamble, even if you soul burn, you're still at the mercy of the elemental disadvantage, so keep that in mind, guys. So fire versus ice, of course. And he is increasing his speed. He's getting the speed buff for 2 turns, increasing speed by 30%. If you didn't know, damage dealt increases proportional to the target's speed. So you will deal more damage if you're attacking a target that has high speed. So you could use him as your opener with 119 base speed. He's gonna scale quite nicely with a speed set. You don't even need to build effectiveness on him if you're going to be soul burning, which I recommend doing, because you don't have to deal with that 15% innate resist in the game, which is quite annoying. So yeah, now you could be wearing Tagiho's Ancient Book on him if you're going to be using him more for like control, right? And if you want to go for damage, well, it's gonna be a bit hard. That's a weakness of his, right? Because I'm gonna be talking about skill 3, but you need to have that speed buff. And you're vulnerable between skill 2 and skill 3. You're not granted an extra turn. You're not getting any combat readiness boosting. You're getting that speed buff, which is good, but it's not like a 50% combat readiness increase, having you know, an immortality shield, stuff like that. So you're definitely vulnerable, but I'll talk about a way to counter that, I guess. So let's move on here. This is skill number 3, locks all enemies with subspace before triggering an explosion, penetrates defense by 30% when the caster is granted increased speed. Damage dealt increases proportional to the caster's speed. So he deals more damage if he has speed because it will penetrate defense by 30%. So that's the thing though. To enable this, you need to either use skill 2 first and then wait until you go again, which is not going to be that bad, but still in PvP you're facing against like some really fast opponents, right? So you might have to rely on another hero to increase your speed, like let's say Yuna, right? So that could be one way to go about it. So this skill will increase its damage if, well, the more speed you have, because it will scale based on your attack. I mean, he has over 1300 attack, which is really good. He also scales off of speed, so you will need a balance of either, if you're going first, you need to go all in on speed, meaning like your offensive stats might not be so high. It's going to be hard to get those high unless you are in late game. So this hero is going to shine more in late game than in early to mid game, but still can be used there. You're just going to have him built a different way, you know, maybe not so much for full on like max speed plus like have some decent offense. It's going to be maybe more of a support, or you're going to be using him more for PvE, and then later on you'll move on to using him in PvP when you feel like his stats, you're more comfortable with his stats. But yeah, okay, so I feel like the multiplier, like straight up on this thing, is not going to be that high, because you have to take into consideration that he penetrates defense by 30% if he has the speed buff. So there's a requirement here, and I feel like the multiplier is not going to be that high because it already penetrates defense by 30%. It's just that there's a requirement, so that's a weakness right there, right? The cooldown on this is 4 turns after skill ups. Definitely not bad. By the way, on this thing, it's 4 turn cooldown. It cannot go down. It cannot go down with skill ups, because I feel like it would be kind of overpowered. In PvE, you could lock down bosses. I mean, a boss quite well with this thing, especially he's getting the speed buff, so that's also huge. Increasing cooldown twice, 1 turn each, is big. Dispelling is also big. That's a big strength there. In PvE, this skill is massive, I would say. You also have the soul burn at your disposal if you don't want to depend on effectiveness. So let me talk about that skill 1. You kind of don't need to build effectiveness for him in PvE, because I mean almost all bosses are immune to silence, right? So 75% chance to silence is very powerful, but it's going to be more useful in PvP versus PvE, because in PvP you can definitely silence the opponent if you have, assuming you have effectiveness. If you're not going to be building effectiveness on him, then if you're going to be relying on soul burning, his skill 2, then you're not going to be able to land that silence unless you're attacking damage dealers. If you're going against supports, trying to lock them down with a silence, it's going to be hard if you're relying on the soul burn to ignore effect resistance. So that's an issue right there. It's really hard to build him, like high speed, high crit damage, attack, effectiveness. That is super stat hungry, so keep that in mind. He's fire as well, not light or dark, so he has to deal with the elemental disadvantage versus ice. So yeah, but this is extremely powerful to deal with Bazaar. Even if you are facing Fallen Cecilia with Bazaar, like she's applying a shield on the whole team, right? Which means it's going to be, the immunity set is going to be protected by the barrier, which shows up on the left side. That means the first dispel, it would take the shield off, but damage is dealt before dispel and debuff being applied, meaning that you're going to be able to break the barrier from the damage, and then you will dispel the immunity buff from the immunity set, and then increase skill cooldown by 1 turn. And then he will do it again. So Bazaar skills are going to be on a 2-turn cooldown, which is great. It buys you some time, but it's not only Bazaar. Of course, any sort of hero, hopefully not Ice though, unless you want to gamble, but any hero that boosts combat readiness, Judith, DJ, Desergio Bazaar. I mean, there's all sorts of heroes, and that is a very powerful skill by itself, right? With the 119 base speed. It could be like a maid Chloe. You don't want her to use her skill 3. You open up with this thing against her. You might not build him with full-on speed because you kind of want to mix your stats. Have high speed, but still have that sweet offense power, so you can like be very devastating in terms of damage, especially if you're going to be using defense break. You're going to have attack buff. There's going to be a lot of damage with that skill 3. Can't wait to see those multipliers, so I'll be showcasing him, of course, in PvE and PvP for you guys whenever we can get him, and it's going to be on March 12th, by the way, guys, so be ready. I told you about which catalyst that you actually need, so if you really want to be ready for him, start farming. Start farming. So there's also this artifact which will be paired with him. It's called Black Hand of the Goddess. This thing, when it's fully powered up, right, it gives you 24% crit chance. So that's a lot of stats right there, but it goes down every time you attack. So 24% crit chance at the start of the battle. Effect decreases by 2.4% every time the caster attacks, down to 12%. So realistically, you'll have this thing at plus 15. Let's say you only have 1 copy, right? So the effect will be between level 1 and max, meaning that it's going to be 18% critical hit chance that you will have initially, and then it will drop by 1.8% crit chance every time you do attack, and you will also go down all the way down to 9% critical hit chance increase. So you could use this for cleaving if you want to get that sweet crit chance increase, especially if you have multiple copies. The problem comes down to, you also have Portrait of the Saviors that you could be using to increase your damage by 20% when the target is at 50% health or higher, right? So you gotta keep that in mind. That is that's a ton of damage. So yeah, now let's actually go in the game, or actually I could go through some other thoughts about this hero before I move on to jumping in the game, talk about artifacts and hero combos, heroes that he can counter, you know, in PvP. So yeah, now this thing, like I said, in PvE, it's actually very powerful. I just love how much is packed into this skill. Something you want to keep in mind is that out of his skills, he doesn't have any debuff that affects almost all bosses in the game. Silence, they're immune to it, almost all of them, right? So what happens is that you can use this hero in the Abyss, because you know those floors that that you don't want to apply any debuff, all like these types of fights. Well, he can be used there, which is great. Like I said, the skill increase by 1 turn twice is huge. The dispel, like dispel massive. This two buffs removed. Cooldown increase 2 turn if it happens, right? If it happens twice. And the increased speed allowing you could overlap the boss like crazy, especially if you're reducing combat readiness with the rest of your team. You have a hero or more that can reduce the boss's combat readiness. It's going to be great. And he's going to be able to overlap the boss like crazy with the speed buff and the high base speed. You're building him with a nice mix of speed, offense. Even like in the Abyss, let's say, you don't have to build too much attack on him. It could be mostly like speed, critical hit damage. You don't really need effectiveness unless you're going to be soul burning. But 55% effectiveness is the sweet spot. The thing is, you could rely on Daydream Joker to deal damage based on the target's max health. And with this thing, his kit is going to be pretty sweet. So yeah. Now the thing is, that's an AoE. Some stage maybe AoE could be a problem for you, but yeah. Now let's just move on to in-game. So I'll talk about some hero combos and give you guys some more thoughts about Kawerik. Okay, so Yuna, I mean, that's definitely a hero you could use with him. You're getting the attack buff and the speed buff that you need to penetrate 30% of the target's defense with that AoE attack on skill 3, right? But she is not boosting the combat readiness of the team. So, I mean, the enemy might cut in. The enemy might cut in, which could be a problem. So there's that. Other thing to consider is artifact, right? You've got those mage artifact, which are like really powerful. Of course, Tagil's Ancient Book, you could just wear that on him, have the 20 souls on hand, and just soul burn his skill 2 to ignore effect resistance. That's one option to for you guys. Kaladra, if you're going to be applying any debuff on the enemy team, well, you could boost your damage up to 30%. Only a 4-star artifact, not so hard to limit break. So that can definitely be a viable option. It's just that you have to deal with landing your debuffs, which is not always the best thing to rely upon. He is a mage. I mean, maybe you want to have more chance to dispel, so that's pretty solid right there. The thing is, he's already dispelling twice, so that frenzy in Azimanak Hunt can definitely be taken care of with his skill 2, putting the skills on cooldown as well. I feel like since he has an AoE as well, he's going to be pretty solid there. 4-turn cooldown on the AoE could definitely work out quite well. So what else do we have? Well, out of these 5-star artifacts, well, Abyssal Crown, maybe you could land a stun. It depends. I mean, if you're going to be going with him as a support, maybe Tagil's Ancient Book is on another mage. I don't know, maybe you want to land some stun. So if you're building him more as a support, I mean, that's the thing. That's more for early to mid game. I feel like you're going to go with a high amount of speed and high offense. It's just not going to happen so early on, I mean, it could be a viable option. Time Matter could be one way to go about it in Asmanak Hunt. Asmanak Hunt, if you're killing ads, right, you're reducing your skill cooldown by 1 turn when an enemy is killed by an attack and increases damage of the next attack by up to between 18% to 36%. So that's definitely an artifact that you could wear there. Very powerful for Asmanak Hunt, by the way, guys. Okay, so I mean, I'm not going to talk about all these artifacts, but let's look at some heroes that you could counter with him, right? So let's go down to like 3-star heroes. The thing is, you could always use Righteous Thief Roseed. Roseed, if you want to boost his speed, that could be one way to go about it. There's also the combo. Of him going first, followed, I mean, he's going to use skill 2, right? And then you could have auxiliary lots with not as much speed. Since you already took care of dealing with, let's say, their Bazaar, right? He cannot go with skill 3. You're putting skill on cooldown, so he's going to be just using skill 1. You could follow with auxiliary lots, and then that would give him that sweet attack buff. The attack buff is there. He already have the speed buff from himself by using skill 2, and then he could go hard with that skill 3. I just wonder on the multiplier, but that's definitely a viable strategy if you are lucky enough to have auxiliary lots. The thing is he worth putting your best speed gear on? That's going to be a question you will have to figure out. I don't know how many pieces of speed gear you guys have, how many sets, but early to mid game, you don't have so many of those. So he could have your best speed. If the Bazaar meta is strong, defenses on Arena and Guild Wars, mostly Arena of course, have Bazaars, then yeah, you can definitely counter Bazaar with him. And then your auxiliary lots might not have the best speed, but still he can do real good. He follow up, he goes after Kawerik and he gives him attack buff, and then Kawerik just cleaves the team. You got penetrate 30% defense. You don't even need to worry about, I think, defense break. right? I think especially teams that are more on the squishy side, if they're relying on Bazaar to, I don't know, just mess up the enemy team so their damage dealer go, you could make it happen. The problem is the damage might not be high enough. That's one thing. And then you have to worry about Kawerik getting deleted by counter mechanism, right? A lot of heroes do have Elbrus Ritual Sword or counter or both of those, or they have a counter mechanic built in, right? I mean, ML can, I mean, he is definitely gonna take a beating there if you're gonna be going this way. You still have a spot, you still have 2 other spots for 2 other heroes. That could be your opening, and then you still have some other options. The prime is you also have to deal with, Water's Origin, so boosting combat units of Soul Weavers, and then they could cut in after that, sustaining the team, messing up your strategy. There's a lot of things that could go wrong with this, but I mean, in Guild Wars it has more. It's stronger there because it's only 3 versus 3, less chance of things going wrong. Him with Oxlots, that's already two heroes only. You still have a spot for another one, so it leaves you some room, you know. Other heroes, right? I mean, there's not him, no, not him. Let's go in all heroes down to 3-star heroes. Let's say you want to counter a team that's relying on going first with, of course, where is she at? That Judith. Where is that Judith? There she is. So that's a hero that is built to go first. Not a lot of teams do have this hero because, I mean, they're mostly like using heroes that are quite tanky. But if they're relying on going first with this hero, 117 speed, you could outspeed her. There's always that minus plus 5% speed initially that could mess you up real good. So if they roll like a high, like a 5% speed increase, and you're unlucky, you're rolling minus 5% speed, right there, it could mess up your whole plan. But yeah, let's say you're going with the auxiliary lot strategy. You could have you have 2 more spots, right, for speed, memory, imprint, and other like some extra damage. So that could be one way to go about it, right? So boosting your speed even further, allowing you to make sure you go first. So that's great. You could have the speed hitting him and hitting Oxlots. You could be using Fire Shuri. Fire Shuri, man. He gives speed for back and top position, up to 14 speed increase. That is definitely gonna make a difference to allow you to go first. Watcher Shuri, that's another option. Of course, if you're gonna be using Oxlots, that's you're not gonna have speed on him though. So yeah, 10 speed there. But there's quite a few options. Like even Green Vildred, he can make it happen. If we look at it real quick, if we go in the arena, just closing thoughts here, just go through the ranking real quick. You can see that Bazaar is all over the place, you know. Let's say team number 2, they have Desert Jewel Bazaar. You could like counter him, right? And then he's not going to be able to use skill 3 to boost combat sureness. But something you have to keep in mind, the higher you are in leagues in PvP, you have to remember that almost their whole team is built on speed. Like even if you lock down one of those hero, the other heroes are still going to be quick. They're going to go like back to back almost. Like there's not such a huge gap between the speed of their heroes. They are not fully relying on the combat units boosting in case one of them gets disabled and stuff like that. So they kind of have like a backup plan. Because there's not so many teams that go like with combat units boosting so much in the top. But I mean, top players are like a very small percentile though. But look at all those bazaars, right? There's a lot of them, and that's great that you're gonna be able to just deal with this like super annoying hero that is definitely overpowered. Like his kit is extremely powerful. It's kind of funny that they release him right after Cerise, you know, with the 122 base speed is really great. Like you can go first. That's great and all that. But now he's fire. He's fire. She's limited though. I would say if you pulled for Cerise, maybe she get buffed. But I'm using her quite well. You know, I'm using her quite effectively. But I need Challenger Domino to boost the combativeness of the team, relying on critting with Cerise and then like dealing with immunity set. Then I'm using Tywin, Tagil's Ancient Book, and Bloodblade Karen. Used Celestial Mercedes as well instead of her. But like that's really hard to like obtain this team with the Tagil's Ancient Book and the skill ups. That's a long time to build up all this. You see Judith is here. The thing is, there's other heroes that are fast and they can go first and like take out Bazaar instead of him. So yeah, there's a lot of different options. So I mean, I would say he's not like a must pull, right? He's not a must pull. He's not limited. So you might eventually get him later down the line. But Bazaar might be that annoying to you. You really want to deal with him. You are tired of dealing with Bazaar. Oh man, and that combativeness pushback, the Abyssal Crown Bazaar that dispels, push you back, and stun you. You know, that's really annoying. So you can definitely use Kawerik for dealing with Bazaar. No, I don't know about using him on defense though. What I'm wondering is the AI going to use skill 2 first before skill 3? In the video they're previewing skill 2 first, so I'm thinking that on auto skill 2 will be used first because skill 3 has the requirement of having speed buffs, so it does make sense. So I feel like he could sort of be used on defense. The prime is that that weakness, you know, that downtime between skill 2 and 3 might get him killed or disabled or something. So that's definitely a problem, something to worry about. You can't just slap him on defense. He's gonna target every Bazaar. Maybe they have 2, 3, 4 Earth heroes going in there against you. So I mean, you know, it's gonna come down to being random who will be selected from him using skill 2, so they might be baiting that, and they might not even go in there with Bazaar if you have him. So can't really use him on arena defense so much. I think it's gonna be too random. Guild Wars is a different story. 3v3, you know, because skill 2 is not the only thing. That's another threat the enemy team has to worry about. I feel like, yeah, he can be used more successfully on Guild Wars defense. In the World Arena, he's definitely going to be great, you know, dealing... I mean, doing a lot of stuff. His kit is great, even though silence on skill 1 can be put to good use. It could be the difference between winning or losing. The thing is, you might not have that much effectiveness or on him or at all if you're relying on the soul burn, like I said, so you're not going to be landing that silence on a support with high effect resistance. So that's another thing you have to keep in mind. Look at all these Bazaars, you know? So definitely going to be great. But you have to worry too about those water origin, allowing your team, their team to cut in, and yeah, that's one thing you have to worry about. LENA, you know, you're doing AoE against her, and then she's triggering Magahara Storm, cutting in, putting invulnerability on the whole team. You know, that could definitely mess you up. That's why Cerise counters that with her skill 3. But anyways, I feel like that's it for this one, guys. My early thoughts about him, I might have gone a bit too in-depth, but I feel like he's definitely going to be super great in PvE. I mean, the amount of speed he has combined with the amount of attack he has, that's going to have some crazy inflated CP right there, but like, that's great for offensive power. That attack, that 119 speed, and even the 23% crit chance, great there. Of course, in terms of health, that's pretty low there. If you get defense broken with him, and you are relying more on your defense than on your health, you're getting your defense cut by 70%, which is huge, cutting his survival. Very squishy though. That's definitely a weakness in PvE. But if you're able to have him survive that speed buff with the dispel, the cooldown increase, the penetrate 30% defense, you don't even need like defense break on your team. You could do it with him. And AoE is gonna speed up your run, of course. In the raid, I wonder how the camping morale is with him. how much will he give to the whole team, how's the synergy there. So I'm gonna have to try all that stuff out for you guys, so stay tuned for that. But we'll see. Will he change the meta? I feel like that's a hero you have to build. You have to put a lot of good gear onto. That might not be the hero you want to put all that good gear onto, you know, to counter just like well, not only Bazaar, but like whatever, an opener. It could be a Maid Chloe too. There's a lot of different ways. It could be a Fawn Cecilia in World Arena, something. Just yeah, to put that skill to good use. I just don't know about the damage. I guess we'll find out soon enough. But anyways, that's really it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching. I'm Astranox. Like, comment, and subscribe for more. Press the bell icon to be notified whenever I release a new video. And check out my other videos. They should be showing up on the screen now. I got playlists of all sorts. Arena, Guild Wars, Guides, Tips, and How-Tos, Abyss Floor 62+, as well as best starter guides for my early to mid-game players for fast progression. Join my Discord server, guys. We have over 1,000 members now. If you want to get help or help the community, feel free to join. It's free. Link is in the description, like I said. Good luck with all you do. Peace out for now.